Welcome to the Growth Spurt, a weekly AI podcast by the Second Baptist Church of Ann Arbor.
Great to be here. Today we're doing a deep dive into some powerful source material. The sermon, When God Sets the Record Straight, which Reverend Keith Johnson delivered.
Yeah, and our mission really is to unpack the insights from this sermon, especially how it addresses confronting, life's really tough moments.
It tackles a subject many of us kind of shy away from, having those truly difficult conversations with God.
Right, not the easy chats, but when you're genuinely angry or lost or just overwhelmed by suffering. The whole thing is framed around Job's experience, specifically Job chapter 40.
Verses 1 through 7. And it's really looking at this idea of radical honesty. The source material really pushes us to ask, if we finally pour out our hearts, bring our complaints, demand answers, are we actually ready for God's response? Especially if it's, blunt.
That's a heavy question right off the bat. And the sermon sets the stage in a very relatable way, grounding it in recent experience.
It does. The preacher mentions the past year and a half, feeling like a constant whirlwind. Just one thing after another, forcing adjustments, always bracing for what's next.
That personal touch is important, isn't it? It takes it out of the realm of just theory.
Exactly. It moves it into lived reality. And that's the bridge to talking about shifting from difficult talks with people to these intense, difficult talks with God, approaching Him completely emotionally naked, raw, unfiltered.
And that's often where we hesitate, right? We think, can I really say that? Will I offend God if I'm this desperate or angry?
We filter ourselves, worry about punishment, maybe.
Yeah, exactly.
But the source material hits that head on. It points to Matthew 7:7, ask, seek, and knock. The argument is basically, God can handle it. All of it.
If He made everything, He can handle our frustration, our questions, our smoke, as the sermon puts it.
Absolutely. So the problem isn't really whether God can take our question.
It flips, doesn't it? The real challenge is whether we can handle His reply. Are we ready for that divine clapback, the unvarnished truth?
Which leads us straight into the first major point from the Job story. Brace yourself for the shift.
Okay, so this part really digs into the structure of Job 40, looking closely at verses 1, 6, and 7.
Right. The fact that the Bible specifically says, then the Lord said to Job, and again, then the Lord answered Job from the whirlwind. It's presented as more than just dialogue markers.
It's like a signal. Heads up.
Exactly. A preparation signal. It tells Job, and it tells us, when God speaks directly into the chaos, something fundamentally changes. There's a shift coming.
Life as you know it is about to change. Could be sudden, could be tough.
But definitely different. And think about the power in that voice. The voice that creates from nothing, brings light, calms storms.
Yeah, the idea of a shift suddenly feels very real, maybe even a little scary. It can change your situation, or just how you see it, or both.
And crucially, this shift brings truth. Uncompromising truth. The source brings in Numbers 23.1 on, God is not a man, so He does not lie. He does not change His mind.
So His response isn't going to be tailored to make us feel good necessarily?
No, it's objective reality. It's what we need to hear for growth, even if it stings. Not always what we want to hear for comfort.
That sting, that uncomfortable truth, that's part of the shift itself.
Right. And that moves us from how God responds to what He says, which is the second major insight, recognizing God's sovereignty.
Okay, and this zeroes in on that really sharp question in Job 40, verse 2. Do you still want to argue with the Almighty? You are God's critic, but do you have the answers? Oof.
Yeah, oof is right. It's a direct challenge. The source material clarifies, the issue wasn't Job being sad or confused. God understands grief.
It was the attitude behind the question.
Exactly. The arrogance, maybe. The creation critiquing the Creator's entire system of justice and order. Job wasn't just asking, why me? He was questioning God's entire administration.
And God answers from the whirlwind, right? Not after things calm down.
Right. Proving His power in the storm. It's a statement. Even when your life feels like chaos, ultimate control rests elsewhere.
To really get Job's mindset, though, we have to remember what he went through. The source reminds us of that context.
Oh, absolutely. Losing all 10 kids, all his possessions, one day. Then his health collapses, those terrible boils. His wife tells him to give up. His friends judge him.
It's almost impossible to imagine staying humble through that kind of onslaught. You can see why he'd demand answers.
Understandable, yes. But the sermon, drawing on the source, pivots here. It moves from demanding reasons to trying to understand the purpose behind suffering.
And that's where the New Testament passages come in.
Yes. James 1, for instance. It reframes troubles as chances for great joy, because tested faith builds endurance.
And endurance leads to maturity, completion.
Right. And Romans 5 echoes that. Problems develop endurance, which builds character, which strengthens hope.
So it's presented as like a spiritual development strategy, not random cruelty.
That's the perspective. Suffering isn't arbitrary, it's meant to be transformative. Everything we endure is designed ultimately to make us better, more like him, a refining process. Intense, but purposeful.
Okay, so if we accept that framework, how does that change our response? That seems to be the next point.
Precisely. Which brings us to the third practical lesson. Watch what you say. Basically, how to respond in obedience, maybe even silence.
This comes directly from Job's reaction after God speaks, right? Verses 4 and 5.
Yes. His immediate response is total submission. I am nothing. How could I find the answers? I will cover my mouth. He gets it. He overstepped. Silence and recognizing God's supremacy is the only fitting response.
So for someone listening now, going through their own whirlwind, what's the application?
It's about maintaining self-control,
Yeah.
especially what we say. Remembering God is still God, all-powerful, still reigning, still in control.
Don't let the current storm make you doubt everything or stop trusting.
Right. And keeping that trust when things are truly awful, well, that's incredibly hard. The source material gets very personal here to illustrate this.
Yeah, the preacher shares some really vulnerable stuff, particularly about a young man he cared for.
Yes, like a son. For 10 years, a deep spiritual battle over him. When the young man chose rebellion, ran away after being held accountable. The pain was immense.
But there was a process of seeking God's will.
Yes, and consciously releasing him to the Lord, which unexpectedly brought peace despite the heartbreak.
And there was that powerful detail later.
Yeah, the source shares that 6 months later, one of the people the young man was staying with tragically passed away. It offered this retroactive glimpse, suggesting maybe the painful separation was actually a form of protection.
Wow. That really drives home the idea of trusting the purpose, even when it feels like failure or loss.
It really does. And the source mentions other burdens too. Grief, parents' declining health, the suddenness of his father's illness, just compounding pressures.
And in those dark times, what was the counsel?
It echoed that exchange with Peter. Do you love me? Do you trust me? And the command wasn't complex, but it was demanding. Worship me.
Not just praise, but like a reminder of a commitment.
Exactly. A reminder of that foundational vow, the covenant to bless God at all times, no matter what. That promise is what helps you endure the shift, accept the hard truths.
So that's really the core encouragement here, isn't it? That sense of, I was made for this.
Yes. Referencing Job 1, God knew about the trial beforehand. We aren't just random victims. We're fearfully and wonderfully made, equipped for the challenges. Suffering is real, but it's a season. It passes.
So for you listening, maybe in your own storm right now, the message is hold fast.
Stand firm. God has you. He has your family. Remember the promise? Train up a child, those seeds come back. He won't allow something you fundamentally can't handle.
The sermon keeps circling back to that vow, that covenant made in sickness and in health, good times and bad. It's serious.
Which leaves us with a final thought to maybe mull over.
Yeah.
If you've made that covenant, that deep promise to bless him always, what does it really mean practically to keep your end of the deal when life is excruciating and the answers you get aren't comforting, but just true?
Something to think about for sure.
Definitely.
Go in peace, be blessed, and may the joy of Jesus be yours. We'll see you next week.